to be by one of the research associate scientists, Dr. Arup Acharji from our proteomics lab at IIT Bombay. You have already seen his lecture probably to make the PowerPoint presentation of 101. Now he's going to interact with you live and going to talk to you about some of the tips required to make good presentations. And of course, you can then ask questions about, how do you feel if you want to learn something better about it, what kind of resources are required. So let me now invite Dr. Arup Acharji to give you this live session on making good PowerPoint presentations. Arup, over to you.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Right. So, hello everybody. So you must have heard a bit about my talk. Right. So you must have heard a bit about my talk that we were discussing, making basic PowerPoint slides and how do we make a good and impressive PowerPoint slide. So today I will tell you, there are a few tricks of the trade that you can, use to make your PowerPoint more effective. So just let me share my screen. So if you have any questions, you can drop the questions based. Can you see my screen?
Yes, now I think we can see it.
Right. So let us just to the just recap on what we had actually discussed in that YouTube video. First, we were telling that our PowerPoint needs to be big. When we talk of big, we also mean that our text size. So whenever we use the text form, we need to use it in a proper way. We cannot just cram a lot of text with very small size and expect that our audience would appreciate that. This part was using the PowerPoint and keeping it simple. So when you have lots of elements in a PowerPoint, by elements I do not mean copper, magnesium, sodium, but I mean stuff like you have a text, you have image, you have a graph. So if you have too many things going around, as an audience, I would be almost very confused. Like, where should I focus my attention to? What should I look at? So many times we people, we would see presentations where the presenter will say, look, now if you focus your attention in the middle of the slide or the left of the slide, and then their presentation, laser pointer will stop working. And now you're confused. What left was it? Like the presenter's left or your left? Which side it is? So always keep your presentations very simple. It should be very clear. The text you use, the photographs you use, everything should be very clear and easy to follow. Next, I had discussed that your information flow should be progressive. So even if you have to have too many information on one slide to make a story complete, you need to go progressively. So one part of the story evolves, just like if you see that on this slide, I have actually 5 bullet points, but I'm coming slowly. Like I am discussing big, so only big is there. Then when I come talk of simple, only simple is there. So I'm being progressive on this slide as well. And finally, consistency. You need to be consistent. Your slide should not look like a choppy work that you have pasted, copied somebody else's slide. Maybe it's your own slide that you made 2 years back, and then suddenly you decided to edit. So the font style changes, the colors change. So you should avoid all these kind of inconsistencies. So these 5 points make a very very conclusive and slides. So why good resources? Now, obviously, communication is the key, and you need good resources in terms of visuals that can draw the audience's attention. So if I show you something very blurry, something very hazy, something very pixelated, you won't take interest. Also, visuals help you to illustrate complex relationships. Not everything can be put on words. So a picture is worth 1,000 words. There goes a saying. So if you can illustrate your concept with a beautiful photograph or a beautiful, metaphorical example, then it's very easy for the audience to understand what is going on. So the biggest question is, why don't we just Google it out? Google or any other search engine would have all the answers for what we need to tell to our audience. So why don't we just Google? The reason is copyright. Now you must be very aware that whatever is available on the internet is there for your own consumption. It does not mean that you can copy it and claim it to be your own. It's also related. There is one more point, that is, if you infringe upon someone's copyright, it also comes under plagiarism. That Swati ma'am discussed, that people copy somebody else's work, claim it to be their own. So even if you're making a PowerPoint and you are presenting it, um, in some school seminar or some college seminar, what do you think? If you search, maybe your friend is also presenting the same stuff. So you need to be different every time. Your presentation needs to stand out, even if you're. So you need to avoid these issues. And most important thing is lack of customization. So your story might be different from my story. So if you want to tell me a story about your, you know, how you go from home to your college, it might not use you might not use the same kind of transport as I do. I use a motorcycle, you might use a bus, somebody else might use a car. So there is always a lack of customization when we use somebody else's slide or somebody else's template, or we just copy from Google. So let me discuss very briefly the resources we can use for biology based stuff. So I will just show you the resources, and then we can browse it together on the internet. So remember, Creative Commons is something that allows you to copy stuff, provide, and allows you to edit stuff that you get from the internet. So if you look at this, so while you're you are searching the internet for resources, always avoid copyrighted content, because copyrighted content, first of all, it is not appreciated that you copy somebody else's work. Secondly, in a worst case scenario, and in few places in the world, these copyright laws are very strictly followed, and copyright infringement might land you up in jail. It's in a worst case scenario. So more often than not, people are fined. If you are making videos for YouTube, YouTube might demonetize your video. Worse still, you might be banned from the platform. So always make sure that stuff you're making or recreating something, they are not infringing somebody else's copyright. After that, you would have, there are multiple types of Creative Commons licenses. So Creative Commons licenses, if it is, if you just look at the logo, so there are options where you can share, remix, and you can also gain money out of it. There are places where you can obviously share and remix, but this is not for profit. So let's go on for Creative Commons licenses. What are that? So if it is in public domain, a document in public domain, so every document that comes like government archives, stuff that the government have created for you, there is the Gutenberg archives, and the documents by maybe if you talk of NIH or NASA and all these governmental agencies, CSIR. So when they put out some information, they put it out, if it is in public domain or their copyrights have expired. Again, any document which has copyright was not renewed, they come in public domain. So when you take work from public domain, you can copy and publish, and you can almost do anything you want. You can edit and remix stuff. Then there are Creative Commons license, that is called BYSA. Here again you can copy and publish, but you need to put the attribution. Attribution means you have to tell that the original creator of the work was Mr. X, Mr. Y. Obviously you can adapt it, and also you can change the license, means you can make it from CC BY. If you do some changes, you can put it in public domain, or you can also copyright that stuff. You take a ball and you make a painting over that ball. So maybe I'm talking of a template, a clip art, and you make a specific change to that clip art. Now that clip art, if you wish, you can again put it in Creative Commons BY, but you can also put it in a Creative Commons BY-NC-ND. So as you go down the ladder on this down, you will see copy and publish allowed everywhere. Attribution required is almost there, but there are a few like CC BY-NC does not allow commercial use. CC BY-NC SA also does not use commercial use, does not allow commercial use. So there are, you need to understand when you take stuff using Creative Commons licenses, please do understand that not everybody will allow commercial use. Not everybody allows you to modify or adapt. And also, not everybody allows you to change the license. But you can almost always copy and publish, provide the attribution required, and use it for your own work. And I was also talking about fonts. Now, again, fonts is also an intellectual property. Some people design fonts. Now, I was talking of sans serif fonts and serif fonts. So, a very good resource to find, open source fonts or Creative Commons fonts are Google Fonts. So this is a website that you can go, and there are multiple kinds of fonts, and you can just, I will just show you, give you a small demo that how you can select a good font type from Google Fonts. Next, I was talking of medical art. Now, one of the most important, we find it very difficult sometimes how to express ourselves. If I have to draw a structure of a brain, where do I copy the structure of a brain from, or can I edit the structure of a brain? Can I just highlight the hippocampus, which is a part of the brain? Or suppose I'm talking of a cell, can I just make the entire cell black and white and only keep the ribosomes in color, or only the mitochondria I can put in color? So can I do these stuff? Yes, you can do. I mean, there's a very wonderful resource called the Survey of Medical Art. So they have given more than 3,000 free medical images, and you can use it in your publications as well as PowerPoint presentations. Obviously, you need to, acknowledge them, because again, it's a Creative Commons license. So you need to attribute the main image to them, but at the same time, it does not ask money from you. The Reactome clip art. So the Reactome is a software, web-based software, and they help us to analyze proteomics data or for pathway analysis. This is exactly not what we are discussing today, but obviously they have multiple clip art library. So in clip art library, they have components like human tissues, proteins, receptors, transporters, cell types, compounds, cell elements, arrows. So these are all unique icons. More than almost 2,000 unique icons are placed. So you can download them as PNG files or EMF files, enhanced meta files, or scaled vector images. So you can download it almost in vector form or EMF form or PNG form, and you can again use these images in PowerPoint. So these will make your PowerPoint look very classy. There is another lab resource called Lab Icons. Now, Lab Icons help you to use, we use multiple instruments in a lab. We have a centrifuge, we have these small centrifuge, microcentrifuge tubes, we have pipettes, we have pipettes with tips. So when you're trying to make a workflow design of your experiment, how do you do that? You can head on to this website called Lab Icons, and on their website you will see multiple types of stuff that you can use, you can customize. So you can, if you need to make an open centrifuge, so all these things are customizable. If you go to the website, you will get to know that how much you can make us, customize your own centrifuge tube. So you can make it half filled, you can make it filled up till brim, you can make an empty tube, you can change the color of the solvent inside. All these stuff you can do. One more point I would just tell you. So many a times, so this is from an earlier presentation of mine. So, can you just tell me what kind of pattern I have followed? So let's make this more interactive. So what kind of font did I use here? Anyone? You can drop in your answer on the chats.
Seems Nandini is raising her hand.
Hello.
Yeah, Arup, I can see Nandini and Anjali, they're raising hands. Serif,
So Nandini.
people
So
are
this is
mentioning. Chat.
so what kind of font is this?
You can speak out, Nandini, if you want to.
Nandini, you can speak. I mean, so how many of you actually believe this is serif, and how many of you believe this is sans serif? So actually, as I told, always use when you are using a font. See these fonts. Just let me zoom into the slides. So if you see, these do not have any edges. So throughout the slide, you would see I have used a sans serif font. And if you look at it, I have again kept the font size, which is almost 32, which is properly visible. I have kept only one image that does not make the slide very busy. So this slide is not very busy. One more thing which you would notice is this. I don't know if it is noticeable to you, but what is this? So this is actually the paper from where I have cited the work. This is not my work. So this is somebody else's work, and that work has been cited for the sake of give you an understanding in this case that how the virus enters a typical human cell. But this is not my work. But does that really mean that I cannot show this work to else? Because I'm here presenting a concept. I'm never claiming that I have made this presentation and like this is my work. So to tell you, you can use a very unobtrusive font size. So here the font size is 11. So here you break the rules. So remember, whenever you are making a presentation, it's not only that you have to follow a rule. Sometimes you can also go ahead and break the rules. Here, the point of breaking the rule is that I have used a very small font size because I don't want to disturb the entire. So if I suppose I edit and make it like this big, first of all, and keep it here. So what am I doing is I am making the slide very busy. First of all, because this does not convey any information to the audience. Direct information, I'm not convinced, I'm not conveying any direct information. So the important part is you have to keep few things you can just follow, where you can just tweak with the rules. So in case of when you take information from other publications, you can just mention, you can follow a particular pattern of naming the publications. So there are publications like Harvard, then there is method like Chicago and MLA. So all these are how you can cite a particular publication. Follow one pattern. Use a very slightly. If you want to see one more thing, the font, the color I have used is slightly grayish. It's not perfectly black, so it is not black. It's kind of muted gray. So this way you have the information. So if an audience who is really very keen to know from where you are sharing the information, once I go it in a full screen mode, they can see that the information is there, but at the same time it does not distract us from the main story. So the main story here is the bacteria, the virus binding to your human cell. So this main story we are not backtracking from, but at the same time we are citing the person who had actually done the work. Next part was the use of animation to give proper concepts. As I told you, so you have to make your animations a bit subtle and don't make it very loud. And always keep the slide very clean. See, when it is a clean slate, your attention. So if I just show you this part of the presentation, immediately your mind is fixated that, okay, I'm hearing a lot of background.
Yeah, there is some background, but it's okay now.
Right. So you immediately your mind is fixated that okay, this is the spike protein, this must be the virus, and this is the cell membrane. Then I can slowly, click and tell that okay, virus is binding, there is an entry inside the cell, there is infection, and then I can talk. So this comes as a very progressive slide. So the first information, the first layer of information is just the spike protein, the virus with the spike protein and the cell membrane. The second layer of information is the binding. The third layer of information is entry. The fourth layer is infection. So this, and now I have named the put. Now I have. I'm not telling anything, but you see some yellow, red things binding. So virus neutralization. Point is, I could have told this in a long bulleted form that the spike protein comes in, and then there is the ACE receptor from which it binds. So I have kept information on this slide to a minimal. Most of the information that I will be providing will be verbal. So if I am to present this slide right now, I would say this slide shows the effect of vaccine as a neutralizer. Normally, the spike protein comes and binds to the ACE2 receptor found on normal cells, enter into the cell that leads to infection. But once we are vaccinated, we produce antibodies against the spike protein. These antibodies come and bind with the spike protein. Once the spike protein antibodies have bound, they prevent the interaction of the spike protein with the ACE2 receptor on the cell. This does not allow the entry of the virus from infection, and this is how a vaccine provides us protection. Now, these all information I could have put on the slide so that my audience can read, but that would have killed the suspense that why is this animation going on. So you, while presenting stuff, any information, you should make sure that your audience knows only half of the story. If your audience knows the entire story, perhaps they won't even look at the story. The next part I just want to focus on is the use of softwares, modern day softwares. So many of the times nowadays you have to present yourself uh, online meetings. Many of times you have an issue that you're not really sure that whether on that day your internet will work smoothly, whether there might be a power cut, there might be issues, or perhaps if you're interacting with an international audience, maybe the actual conference timing when you are supposed to speak maybe 3 in the early morning, 3:30 or 2:30 early morning. So how do you manage all that stuff? You can record yourself on Zoom. So this is one trick that I will just
If I just interrupt, so I think there are some questions on your previous slide regarding the animation which you created for spike protein.
right.
If you could just show them how to put the animation in the PowerPoint.
Right. I don't see the chat right now. So okay, we'll come to it.
Yeah, there are 2-3 questions or something like that. You can do at the end, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll just do it in the end. So let me go through like line one step at a time. So as I told you, so I hope so all you need to do is open Zoom. My screen is visible, I guess. So once you open Zoom and you don't know how to present yourself, so that might be an issue. How to record a Zoom? Just click on New Meeting. Once there is the meeting option is on, so it will connect. Right. Then you click on More. You can just start recording. So at present, I'm just recording this screen, whatever is happening. So if you want to share screen, you can share your screen. If you want to start your video, obviously, and now since I'm talking on Teams, the video will not start. And once you are done with your recording, so if you just believe that you are speaking to an audience of 500 people on the other side. Just behave normally. Then when you click on end, just click end meeting for all. You would have a notification coming that the session is being saved on your computer. So recording on Zoom is very easy now. And then I will just go to show you the animation part, which you're really interested in. So right, so this is a long list of animation. To understand the animation, you have to click on animations tab and then click on animation panel. So you see lots of stuff has gone in. So this is picture 2. So it's actually very hard to tell you how I did the entire animation. So I can show you. So this is picture 2. If I just start, right. So let me just duplicate the slide. And let us try to remove all the elements. So when you start with an animation, this slide has no animation at all. So it's so now you have to tell yourself that how do you want the elements to appear. So you put all your elements, like whatever components you need to have, you put it here. So you want this virus to appear. So you just click on add animation and click appear. So now the only animation that this slide has is appear. Then what do you want the virus to do? You want the virus to move here. Actually, there are two viruses. So you just again click appear. So, and always click on click or start with previous or start after previous. So these are the options you can have. You can also go for effect options tab and you can click on the timing. So if you click twice, this animation will appear, and you can also set the delay. Automatically this cell will appear after 2 seconds or 5 seconds. So this is completely up to you. Ideal is to put it on click. So once you click, so now when you in the first part you have this cell, clicking it once more you will have this. Again you will click it, appear. Okay, let us remove these for other time being, so that it's very easy to use. Now the virus has entered, and then now you want to show that the virus is entering. So again click on appear. So I'm only using, then you want that infection is progressing, so make it this appear, make this appear. Okay, so let's see, the infection part should be going right now. See, it appears, this appears, it binds, enters, and there is infection. Now let us make the protection part. So the first part is these antibodies will appear on binding with the spike. So you select all, make them appear. Okay, now once they appear, you can put this here. You first decide the position and then you again click on appear. Again you put the appear. Now since entry is not happening, you can put this, click place it here, again put appear. Infection is not happening, again click appear.
So great.
Neutralize.
We can maybe just summarize quickly.
Right, and you can just allow these to appear. So this is how you can actually make. So now if I just try to check how my slide is looking, so few things, since we are in a hurry, we could not do, but these are the fine things you need to tune. So the binding, entry, infection, the next again you click, so the antibody binds, binding fails, entry is prevented. infection does not happen, virus neutralization is happening, protection. So this is how you need to break down your entire story. You have to bring all the elements on the slides, and then slowly you can move it, one step at a time, one step at a time. The easiest way is to use this appear disappear. If you remember from the YouTube video, I just told you this is the easiest animation. So entry can be appear. If you want to make something disappear, you just click on disappear. So on one click, some item will come on your slide, the other one. So there are many YouTube tutorials that very skilled PowerPoint presenters they make. You can follow those stuff, and that's all. So I was just going to show you a few websites. So yes, Lab Icons is this website, if you could see. So they have a lot of stuff that you can use. So they have pipettes, multi-channel pipettes, agros, gel electrophoresis, laboratory centrifuges. These are all laminar flows. So you can just browse through the website and take them. Then there is the Reactome icon library, which I said if you just click on cell element, so you want to make a cell biology assignment, and these are the you have chromosome, we have actin filaments, we have centrioles, chylomicron. So lot of these elements, these are free to use under Creative Commons license. So you don't need to and the final one is Severe Medical Art, which I just wanted to show you. Yeah, so you have anatomy of the human body, cellular biology, medical specialties, general lab items. So again, general lab items, you can click. So if you just click on this and you want to go browse through any, so suppose I want to browse through the cardiovascular system. So there are almost 528 illustrations of the cardiovascular system. And if you remember, I had used a similar heart image from the Savia Medical Art to explain to you what is in heart. So you can see that there are procedures like angioplasty. They also have, these are like, you have for like both anatomy and medical procedures, you have figures. So all you need to do is, the easiest way is, suppose you want to do on kidney, you just click on kidney and search kidney, and they will come up with all kinds of images they have for kidney, right? So you can download either as a image. So if you click on it, you will get the image in the PNG format, or you can just click on these are available in PowerPoint. You can just download the entire set. Once it is downloaded, you can edit these PowerPoints. So I think these are things you can explore, and the more you explore, the more you will learn. And then maybe someday you can share some of the knowledge with us as well. So thank you. So this is the presentation I really wanted to make. I think if you have any questions, you can surely ask me right now.
Great. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Arup, for this wonderful session. I'm sure a lot to learn for everybody to know how to make good PowerPoint slides. And just to all the participants, I think it's also good practice for all of you to make this as a way of your, sometimes you want to get relaxed and you want to just, do something creative, right? So making good PowerPoint slides or making good drawings of your work which you are doing can become something creative, which is you can do in your fun time. And making good slides does not come only last minute when you have to present somewhere for an exam or for a presentation. It actually comes with more, your leisure time and creative time, which you can spend time to make something. So if you're working on a given scientific project, you are going to present those ideas to different forums, sometime to the scientific, conferences, sometime to the general audience, sometime to your, the scientific committees. You can make some of these drawings originally, make a practice of making these PowerPoint slides, and by using some of these credits which Dr. Arup had showed, but also redrawing yourself as well, the elements of that, and try to make those very original, type those originally on your PPTs. Don't just copy paste from the published papers from the literature or Google, and try to draw those figures yourself. Then I think you will start seeing the difference in the quality of your presentation. And everybody, believe me or not, in the audience, they make that difference when they are watching your presentation. They will appreciate that how much time and effort you have put in to make that look original and really good illustration which adds lot of the emphasis about your work, and also provides you an opportunity to present it to the effectively to the broad audience. So please make as a practice. I think it's really good, important skill, and these things will only come more and more when you practice more. There is no one best resource, there is no one best way of telling you to make the presentation, and I'm sure many times we get surprised at how good students are able to make the presentation, and they can, we learn a lot from each other in that way. So right now we are going to stop the session given the short time we have. Arup, you could actually take some question on the chat, and if you can answer that, that will be great. We will have opportunity, I'm sure, more time again in the afternoon sometime, and we can talk few questions at that time again. But right now, given the shortage of time, let me thank Dr. Arup for uploading a lecture, which will remain with you on the YouTube for 101 of PPT, and also this live interactive session to give you the very important tips of making presentations. That's all for this particular session.